The sun was setting on the peaceful human colony, a thriving settlement on a distant world far from Earth. The colony had been a symbol of human achievement, a place where people from all over the universe had come to build new lives. Towering structures of glass and metal gleamed under the twin suns, and the streets were filled with laughter, busy markets, and families. It was a place where hope and prosperity flourished. But that evening, everything was about to change. Without any warning, a massive fleet of alien ships appeared in the sky, darkening the horizon. The ships were enormous, unlike anything the humans had ever seen. They were sleek and black, their shapes a combination of sharp angles and curves, giving them an unnatural, almost menacing look. The people of the colony stared up at the sky in disbelief as the first explosion shook the ground. The aliens had attacked with unimaginable speed and precision. Within moments, the colony's peaceful life was shattered. Buildings exploded, fires spread quickly, and screams filled the air. The alien ships fired powerful energy weapons that tore through the colony's defenses like paper. No one had expected such a brutal assault. The humans were unprepared for the sheer strength of the alien forces. Panic spread as people ran for shelter, but there was no escape from the destruction. The alien invaders didn't just want to destroy buildings. They wanted to wipe out the colony, to erase it from existence. Ground forces of terrifyingly strong alien soldiers descended from the ships, laying waste to everything in their path. The humans fought back with what little they had left, but their weapons were no match for the advanced technology of their enemies. It was clear that the aliens were far more powerful than anything humanity had ever faced. Among the chaos, a small group of survivors managed to make their way to an underground shelter. They were the lucky ones, the ones who had found safety before the alien forces could reach them. But even in the darkness of their hiding place, they knew they had lost. Their homes, their families, and their future were gone, reduced to nothing but ashes and ruins. The colony was no more. As the days passed, the survivors came to realize the true extent of the devastation. The alien invaders had not only destroyed the colony, but they had also captured key leaders and wiped out anyone who dared to fight back. It felt as though humanity's entire presence on this planet had been erased in the blink of an eye. The sense of loss was overwhelming. But even in their darkest hour, the survivors refused to give up. They knew that they could not let the aliens get away with this. The destruction of the colony had been an act of pure cruelty, and they swore to avenge the fallen. The few who remained alive began to regroup, quietly planning their next move. They had to fight back, and they had to do it soon. The aliens had won this battle, but the war was far from over. As the alien fleet remained in orbit, the survivors realized that their only chance of survival was to unite, to gather strength and build their resistance. It would not be easy, and the road ahead would be long and dangerous. But in that moment, they made a vow that the destruction of their colony would not be in vain. Humanity's revenge would be absolute. With that promise in their hearts, the survivors began to work, quietly, secretly, to prepare for the day they would strike back. They knew the fight would be hard, and the cost would be great. But they also knew that the aliens had made a grave mistake. They had underestimated humanity's will to survive, and now, humanity was about to show them what true revenge looked like. And so, the stage was set. The fall of the colony was just the beginning of a much bigger story, a story of survival, resistance, and ultimately, vengeance. The survivors would rise from the ashes, and when they did, the aliens would regret ever attacking them. The war for the future of humanity had just begun. The silence that followed the fall of the colony was deafening. The survivors, hidden deep within the remains of underground shelters, could hear the distant hum of the alien ship still hovering above, like vultures waiting for the last signs of life to fade away. The once vibrant human colony was now a graveyard, its people scattered and broken. But in the darkness of their shelter, something stirred, a quiet, burning resolve. It had been days since the attack. The world above had turned to ruins, and the survivors were left with only the barest essentials, food rations, water, and the knowledge that they were the last hope of humanity. The survivors knew that they could not stay hidden forever. If they did, the aliens would eventually discover them, and the remnants of the human race would be crushed like the colony. They had to act, and they had to act fast. Among the survivors was Captain Elena Rayner, a seasoned leader who had led the colony's defense forces before the attack. Now, she was their beacon of hope, the one who refused to let the darkness consume them. She was not only a leader but also a symbol of humanity's unyielding spirit. Under her command, the survivors began to regroup, rebuilding their broken community piece by piece. Elena knew the task ahead would be difficult. The aliens had destroyed their colony with shocking precision, and it was clear they were far more advanced than humanity. But she had a plan, one that could change the course of the war. During the chaos of the attack, some of the alien technology had been left behind, abandoned in the wake of their initial assault. It was a small opportunity, but it was a glimmer of hope. If they could get their hands on it, they might be able to turn the tide. In the weeks that followed, the survivors launched a series of daring raids on alien supply caches. They knew that every step they took brought them closer to a confrontation they weren't prepared for, but they also knew it was their only chance to survive. The aliens were ruthless, and their soldiers were fierce, but humanity was driven by something the aliens could never understand: hope, determination, and a deep desire for revenge. Each raid brought back valuable supplies, food, weapons, and, most importantly, alien technology. The survivors didn't fully understand how the technology worked, but they knew it was their ticket to reversing the odds. Elena and her best engineers worked tirelessly to analyze and reverse engineer the weapons and machines they had captured. The technology was beyond anything humanity had ever seen, but that didn't matter. They would learn, adapt, and use it against the invaders. During this time, the resistance slowly began to grow. People who had once been farmers, merchants, or scientists now trained to fight. What they lacked in experience, they made up for in raw determination. Their mission was clear: take back their world, destroy the alien forces, and make them pay for what they had done. The road ahead would be long, and the cost would be high, but their unity and strength would give them a fighting chance. One night, Elena gathered the survivors for a meeting in the dimly lit shelter. Her voice, calm but resolute, echoed through the underground chambers as she addressed the group. "We've suffered greatly," she began. "Our homes, our families, and our future were ripped away from us in the blink of an eye. But we are not done. We are still alive, and as long as we breathe, we have a chance to fight back. The aliens thought they could destroy us. They thought we were weak, but they have no idea what humanity is capable of. We will make them regret ever attacking us." A wave of determination swept through the room. The survivors, once broken and scattered, now stood united in purpose. They were no longer victims, they were warriors, and they were ready for what was to come. But despite their newfound resolve, doubts lingered. The aliens were powerful, and their forces seemed endless. Would their growing resistance be enough to take on the alien empire? Would their makeshift weapons and tactics be enough to stand up to the might of the invaders? Elena could feel the weight of these questions on her shoulders, but she refused to let them control her. In the months that followed, the resistance launched several successful raids, gathering more alien technology and resources. Slowly but surely, they were building their strength. But it wasn't enough yet. The true battle, the one that would determine humanity's fate, was still ahead of them. As they prepared for the final phase of their plan, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. She knew that the alien forces would never just leave them alone. The aliens had to know they were still alive, and sooner or later, they would come for them. But this time, humanity would be ready. The survivors had learned to adapt, and they had learned to fight. The human resistance was no longer a group of scattered individuals hiding in the shadows. They were a united force, ready to rise up and take back what was theirs. And when the aliens finally came for them, they would be met with an enemy unlike anything they had ever faced. The survival of humanity was no longer in question. It was only a matter of time before humanity's revenge would begin. The human resistance had spent months hiding in the shadows, waiting, building, and learning. Their strength was no longer just in numbers, it was in the intelligence they had gathered, the alien technology they had reverse-engineered, and the belief that they could still win. But it wasn't enough yet. Humanity needed something more, a way to strike directly at the heart of the alien invaders. That opportunity was about to present itself. Captain Elena Rayner stood in front of the war room table, her eyes scanning the holographic map of the alien fleet. The once pristine colony world was now a wasteland, but its destruction had only fueled the flames of vengeance. The time for waiting was over. They had learned all they could from their raids, and now they had discovered something crucial, a weakness in the alien mothership, the very command center of their forces. A weakness that, if exploited, could bring down the entire alien empire. This discovery had come from an unlikely source, a captured alien soldier who had been taken during a recent raid. Through careful interrogation, the human resistance had uncovered a shocking truth: the alien mothership had a vulnerability in its core systems, one that could be exploited with the right approach. The problem was, the core was located deep inside the mothership, in an area heavily guarded by alien forces. Getting to it would be nearly impossible. But Elena knew they had no choice. The human resistance had already lost so much, and now, it was time to take the fight directly to the heart of the enemy. The risk was enormous, but the potential rewards were even greater. If they could destroy the mothership, they would cripple the alien forces and send a message that humanity was not to be underestimated. With the plan in place, Elena began to assemble a team, a small group of the most skilled fighters and engineers. Each of them knew that this mission would be their most dangerous yet. Their lives were on the line, but their mission was clear: infiltrate the mothership, plant the explosive charges, and escape before the entire ship was torn apart. Among the team was Lieutenant Samira Cruz, a brilliant engineer who had played a crucial role in deciphering the alien technology. She was quiet and focused, her mind always working several steps ahead of everyone else. Her skills would be key in bypassing the alien security systems and planting the explosives where they would do the most damage. But Samira was also haunted by the memory of her family, lost when the aliens attacked. She had never forgiven herself for not being able to save them. This mission was her chance at redemption, and she wouldn't let anything stop her. The team's preparation was meticulous. They trained in secret, rehearsing every step of the mission, learning the ins and outs of the alien ship's layout. Every detail mattered, one mistake, and they would all be dead. Elena gave them a final pep talk before they left, her words filled with conviction. This is our moment. We don't just do this for ourselves. We do it for everyone who's fallen, for every life lost, and for every human who still believes that we can win. As they prepared to board their shuttle and make their way to the alien mothership, the weight of the mission hung heavy on their shoulders. They were about to enter the heart of enemy territory, and failure was not an option. But deep down, Elena knew that this was their only chance. They had to succeed, or humanity would face certain extinction. The journey to the mothership was tense. The shuttle was small, barely detectable by the alien ships, but it was still a risk. As they neared the mothership's perimeter, their hearts raced. The massive ship loomed ahead, its dark, jagged shape casting a shadow over them. The humans knew that once they crossed that line, there would be no turning back. Upon docking, they quietly made their way into the ship, using stealth and the alien technology they had scavenged to blend in and avoid detection. Their movements were swift and precise, each member of the team performing their role without hesitation. Samira worked quickly, accessing alien security systems and bypassing alarms, while Elena led the team through the dark, twisting corridors of the mothership. It wasn't long before the first encounter occurred. An alien patrol turned a corner just as they were making their way through a narrow passage. The humans froze, hearts pounding in their chests. There was no room for error. Samira, with her quick thinking, disabled the security cameras just in time, allowing the team to slip past unnoticed. The tension was palpable, but they pressed on. As they neared the core, the resistance team encountered more resistance, alien soldiers, automated defenses, and the harsh reality of fighting in enemy territory. Each member of the team was pushed to their limits, but they moved with purpose, driven by the desire for revenge. They were no longer just fighting to survive, they were fighting to make a statement, to show the aliens that humanity would never give up. Finally, they reached the heart of the mothership, the core room. It was heavily guarded, but the team was prepared. They fought their way through the last line of defense, planting the explosive charges deep inside the core. It was a moment of triumph, but the job was far from done. The team had only moments to escape before the countdown reached 0. But as they turned to leave, disaster struck. One of the team members, Private Lucas Wright, was caught in an explosion during the retreat. Elena rushed back to help him, but there was no time. With a final, desperate push, they made it back to the shuttle, the explosive charges set to destroy the entire mothership. The shuttle blasted off just as the mothership began to tremble. The countdown had reached its final seconds, and the massive alien vessel was about to explode. The humans watched from a distance, a mixture of relief and sadness in their hearts. The aliens had been dealt a heavy blow, but the cost had been high. As the mothership erupted in a brilliant fireball, the resistance team knew that their victory was just the beginning. They had proven that humanity could strike back. But the war was far from over. The aliens would not be easily defeated, and there was still much more to do. The turning point had come, and humanity's revenge had only just begun. The dust from the destruction of the alien mothership hadn't even settled when the human resistance knew they had made a monumental step forward. The explosion was visible for miles across the ruined landscape, and the shockwave rattled the foundations of the planet's surface. For a brief moment, it felt like the whole universe had shifted, like the aliens, who had once seemed unstoppable, were now vulnerable. But the humans weren't under any illusion that victory had been handed to them on a silver platter. Elena Rayner stood on the balcony of their hidden base, watching the horizon as the last remnants of the alien fleet receded into the void. Their next move was critical. They had dealt the enemy a severe blow, but the aliens would retaliate, they always did. The human resistance needed to strike hard and fast, while they still had momentum. Inside the base, the survivors were already preparing for the next stage of the war. News of the mothership's destruction had spread like wildfire among the resistance groups that had formed across the galaxy. Every faction, every human group scattered on distant planets, was now rallying together. The spark of rebellion had been lit, and the flames of resistance were starting to grow. The loss of the mothership had left the alien forces in disarray, but Elena knew that the next phase would require careful planning. Their victory wasn't just about surviving, it was about making the alien empire feel fear, something they had never considered before. It was time to turn the tables and go on the offensive. The humans had learned valuable lessons from their past encounters with the aliens, and now it was time to put that knowledge to work. With the alien mothership destroyed, their main communications network had been severed. Without their central hub, the aliens had no way of coordinating their forces effectively, giving humanity a window of opportunity to launch small, precise strikes across various alien strongholds. The first target was an alien-controlled manufacturing facility on a nearby moon. This facility was responsible for producing the advanced weapons and drones the aliens had used to destroy humanity's colonies. Without these machines, the aliens would be far less effective in combat. The plan was simple: strike hard, strike fast, and make sure they left no trace behind. Elena and her team led the charge, infiltrating the facility under the cover of night. Their stealth was essential. The last thing they wanted was to alert the aliens to their presence too soon. As they landed on the moon, the harsh winds whipped through the barren landscape. The team moved like shadows, carefully avoiding alien patrols and security systems. Samira Cruz, once again, was the key to their success, hacking into the facility's defenses with ease, opening the door to the heart of the enemy's production line. It was a daring attack, and the stakes were higher than ever. Elena's heart raced as the countdown began. The explosives were set to destroy the entire factory, but there was no time to waste. As the team planted their charges and began retreating, the alarms sounded, echoing across the desolate moon. The aliens had detected them. What followed was chaos. The alien soldiers, more numerous and fierce than ever, emerged from the shadows, weapons drawn. A fierce battle erupted in the cold moonlight, the humans fighting with everything they had. The sound of laser fire and the clash of metal filled the air, but the resistance held their ground. They had become more than survivors, they were warriors, fighting for something greater than themselves. Elena's voice rang out across the battlefield, giving orders, coordinating attacks, and leading her team with the same determination she had always shown. Her leadership had become the backbone of the resistance. Each victory, no matter how small, was a testament to her strength. As the last of the charges were detonated, the entire facility exploded in a massive fireball. The shockwave sent the team flying, but they remained determined. With their mission completed, they retreated to their shuttle, narrowly escaping the blast radius. The factory was no more, and with it, one of the aliens' most crucial resources had been wiped out. Back at their base, the news of their success spread quickly. The destruction of the manufacturing facility sent shockwaves through the alien ranks. For the first time, the aliens realized that humanity wasn't just a colony of helpless victims, it was a force to be reckoned with. Elena stood before her gathered forces, the mood among the resistance shifting. There was a palpable sense of triumph in the air, but she knew they had only just begun. The fight was far from over. The destruction of one facility wouldn't win the war. But it would make the aliens question their superiority. It was a start, a powerful start. Tonight, we've shown the aliens what we're capable of, Elena said, her voice steady and resolute. But this is just the beginning. We have to keep pushing. We will fight for every inch of our world, for every person who has fallen. We won't stop until they pay for what they've done. Her words were met with a roar of approval from the gathered resistance fighters. They were no longer just survivors, they were an army. And with each victory, they grew stronger, more determined to reclaim what the aliens had taken from them. But deep within the heart of the alien empire, the leaders were beginning to realize the threat humanity posed. They had underestimated the human spirit, and now, it was only a matter of time before the resistance would launch an even bigger strike, one that would take the fight straight to the aliens' home turf. The war was far from over, but humanity had proven something important: they weren't going to back down. The aliens had awakened a sleeping giant, and now, they would face the consequences of their actions. The final reckoning was coming, and the humans would be ready. The first crack of dawn had barely touched the horizon when Elena Rayner stood on the command deck, staring out into the cold, empty space ahead. The human resistance had come a long way, but the hardest battle still loomed on the horizon. After months of relentless strikes, sabotage, and guerrilla warfare, humanity had proven they were not just survivors, they were conquerors. The alien forces had underestimated them from the start, and now, the tide of the war was shifting. Elena's thoughts were interrupted by the sudden arrival of her senior officers. Among them was Lieutenant Samira Cruz, whose face reflected both exhaustion and determination. Her eyes, once filled with doubt, now held a fire that mirrored the resistance's burning desire for retribution. Samira had become a master tactician, able to read the enemy's moves before they made them. But she had also become something more, a symbol of hope for those who had lost everything. "We've done all we can with our current resources," Samira began, her voice calm but grave. "The aliens are regrouping. They've lost a lot, but we're far from finishing them. We need one final push, something that will destroy their core power and force them to surrender." Elena nodded, understanding the weight of Samira's words. The final push was their last chance. It was no longer about strategic victories or weakening the enemy, it was about wiping out the alien leadership once and for all. The resistance had learned much from their smaller victories, and now it was time to use that knowledge for the ultimate revenge. The plan was simple, yet incredibly dangerous. They would infiltrate the heart of the alien empire, deep within the alien capital, a planet known only as Xanthora, the center of their power. It was a well-guarded stronghold, and no one had ever dared to attack it. The aliens' largest fleet was stationed there, alongside their most advanced weaponry and defense systems. But the humans had a secret weapon, an internal spy network that had infiltrated the alien ranks over the past few months. This intelligence provided Elena and her team with critical information. The alien command center on Zenthora was housed in an underground fortress, protected by multiple layers of security. It was a seemingly impenetrable fortress. But the key to their success lay in the aliens' own weaknesses: overconfidence, arrogance, and a lack of understanding of human ingenuity. The resistance would strike at their core, bypassing most defenses by using the very same alien technology they had once scavenged. The time for covert operations had passed. It was time for humanity to deliver an undeniable blow. As the fleet gathered for the final assault, there was an eerie sense of determination among the soldiers. Every single member of the resistance knew that this mission could be their last, but they also knew it was necessary. For the families lost, the colonies destroyed, and for the billions of humans who had been slaughtered without mercy. They would not let the aliens get away with it. The journey to Zenthora was long and treacherous, but it was nothing compared to the battle that awaited them on the planet's surface. The moment their ships entered the planet's atmosphere, the battle began. Alien ships appeared from the shadows, engaging in a fierce space battle. The human fleet was smaller, but it was well coordinated, and they had the advantage of knowing the enemy's tactics. The space battle was intense, with explosions lighting up the dark skies as the human ships dodged enemy fire and returned shots with deadly precision. But while the space battle raged above, Elena and her elite team of soldiers, engineers, and operatives were on the ground, preparing for the final assault. They landed on the outskirts of the alien capital, where the first line of defense awaited them. The resistance had no illusions about how difficult this would be, but they had come too far to back down now. With her team by her side, Elena led the charge toward the heavily fortified underground entrance. Alien soldiers swarmed toward them, but the resistance fought like animals, driven by the memories of the devastation the aliens had caused. Samira, using her knowledge of alien technology, hacked into the security systems, creating a breach in the fortress defenses. The doors slid open, and the team pushed forward. The halls of the fortress were cold and metallic, echoing with the sounds of alien footsteps. The deeper they ventured into the facility, the more guarded it became. The aliens had anticipated an attack, but they had not anticipated this level of ferocity. Every turn they made brought them face to face with enemies more determined than the last. The humans, however, pressed on, knowing that the heart of the alien empire was only a few floors below. As they neared the command center, Elena's team encountered the final line of defense, the alien elite guards, a group of soldiers who were almost mythic in their reputation. These warriors were faster, stronger, and more deadly than any they had faced before. The battle that followed was brutal and fast-paced, a blur of flashing weapons and desperate moves. But the resistance fought with everything they had. Their strength, their determination, and the pain of their losses pushed them forward. Finally, Elena reached the central control room, where the alien leadership stood, shocked by their sudden arrival. The alien general, a towering figure draped in armor, looked at her with disdain. "You think you can defeat us?" he sneered. "You are nothing but ants under our feet." Elena, panting and covered in dirt and blood, stepped forward. "We're not ants," she said, her voice cold with fury. "We're humanity. And you've just made the biggest mistake of your lives." With a final push, they detonated the explosives they had planted around the command center. The explosion was deafening, shaking the entire fortress. The alien leadership was obliterated in a flash, their empire crumbling in the aftermath. As the dust settled and the fires from the explosion burned in the distance, Elena and her team emerged victorious. The alien forces were in disarray, their command center destroyed, and their leadership shattered. Humanity's revenge had been absolute. The war was far from over, but the first step in reclaiming their world had been taken. Elena stood among the ruins, her eyes scanning the horizon. The cost had been high, but the victory was sweet. The aliens had learned the hard way what it meant to challenge humanity. They had destroyed a colony, but humanity had returned in force. This wasn't just a victory for the resistance, it was a victory for every fallen soldier, every life lost, and every human who had ever dreamed of a future free from alien oppression. The fight was not over. But today, humanity had won.